In the waning days of the Republic and the Jedi Order, one Jedi Master is highlighted. Special attention has been given to this Master due to whom his apprentice was, none other than the Chosen One himself, Anakin Skywalker. It becomes a devastating loss to Obi-Wan Kenobi when his student turns to the dark side and takes on the persona of Darth Vader. 2 decades later, Anakin Skywalker's son begins his training under the same master. Luke Skywalker becomes a key player in the rebellion and the eventual fall of the Empire. Luke's baptism by fire earns him the right to the title Jedi Knight, and he takes on an apprentice of his own nephew, Ben Solo. It is also a devastating loss to him when his student turns to the dark side and takes on the persona of Kylo Ren. So now, we are left with the task of seeing what went wrong with these students of the light side. Was it their training? Was it their master's fault? Today, on Star Wars Fanatic. If you're new to the channel, go on and hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give the video a thumbs up to show your appreciation for the hard work I put into this and every video. Now, let's get on with today's topic. I know we all know the story of the characters following. Whether you agree with the sequel trilogy or not, there is something to be said about the way some of the characters were written. I know a lot of fans don't agree with how Luke Skywalker was treated. It isn't my mission to change anyone's mind or even praise the decisions made for him. It is only my mission to try to make sense of it all. Obi-Wan Kenobi was taught the ways of the Force by a great master. Qui-Gon Jinn was a patient master and taught Obi-Wan how to stay in tune with the living Force and to follow its will. Obi-Wan had been taken into the Jedi Temple for training at the age of 3. He was unusually old to begin his training, as most children were identified around the age of 6 months old. At the age of 12, Obi-Wan was selected by Qui-Gon Jinn as his next apprentice. When Obi-Wan Kenobi was 25 years old, Qui-Gon Jinn was killed by Darth Maul and Obi-Wan was put through his trials, making him a full Jedi Knight. Obi-Wan continued his service in the Jedi Order, took on a particularly old Padawan by the name of Anakin Skywalker. It was Anakin Skywalker who turned to the dark side, becoming Darth Vader. Darth Vader then assisted Emperor Palpatine in bringing down the Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic. However, Obi-Wan survived and took on one more apprentice, Luke Skywalker. Luke was 19 years old when he began his training. Luke Skywalker was born of Padme Amidala and Anakin Skywalker. During childbirth, his mother passed away. Just before he was born, his father became Darth Vader and Luke was hidden from him. Luke then loses his master after a short time and is left alone to figure out things for himself. That is, until the spirit of Obi-Wan shows up and instructs Luke to go see his next master, Yoda. Luke spends 18 months with Yoda as an apprentice before he sets off to save his friends. When he returns to complete his training, Yoda passes away before it's completed. After Luke helps the Rebel Alliance bring down the Empire, Luke sets off to find out more about the Jedi ways. Roughly 11 years later, he takes on his own apprentice, his own nephew, Ben Solo. 13 years later, Ben would follow in his grandfather's footsteps, turning to the dark side and attempting to wipe out the Jedi Order once again. Luke Skywalker then follows in the footsteps of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Luke would not only become a hermit hidden from the galaxy and its troubles, he would cut himself off from the Force completely. But what happened with the apprentices of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker? Well, let's go back a little again. Obi-Wan Kenobi was raised in the Force from the time he was 3 years old. He was surrounded by Jedi and trained by many of them. He learned lightsaber combat from masters like Yoda and Mace Windu and given guidance by any master available to teach him, until he was finally given a permanent master. Even after his training was completed, he was on the Jedi Council and around like-minded Jedi well into his middle age. Obi-Wan was affluent in the Force. There were a lot of big circumstances that turned his apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, to the dark side. Obi-Wan Kenobi could not foresee it happening, and it was emotionally devastating to lose his apprentice, his friend, and his brother. Luke Skywalker had not even heard of the Force until he was 19 years old when Obi-Wan Kenobi told him about it. Obi-Wan then began Luke's training at that moment. The exact amount of time that Luke was training with Obi-Wan is a little ambiguous. However, by estimates, it was only 2 to 3 weeks before Kenobi was killed. Luke then went 6 months without a mentor. He then spent 18 months on Dagobah training under Yoda. When Obi-Wan died and Luke left Yoda, he had only been training as a Jedi for 18 months and 2 to 3 weeks. Training as a Jedi usually took at least 2 decades before the apprentice was ready to go out on their own, with the exception of Luke's father Anakin, who was knighted 10 years after his training began. But in retrospect, that's far greater than the 1.5 years that Luke spent in training. So basically, Luke was still young in the Force when he took on his own Padawan. His training was rushed, just so he could defeat Darth Vader. The rest of Luke's training was done through his own teachings that he was finding in books and archives. So when he took on Ben Solo as a student, he was still learning himself. And if remembered correctly, Luke was having a difficult time fighting back his own dark side tendencies. Both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker took it personally when their students fell, as any normal being would. But the difference is, Obi-Wan did not fail Anakin Skywalker. Although he did take most of the blame, he even told Anakin, "I have failed you." But he taught Anakin everything he knew and even loved him as a brother. Anakin was given a wealth of knowledge in the Force from his master. Luke, on the other hand, didn't have much working knowledge of the Force at all. He also tended to draw from the dark side when his emotions got the best of him, just like his father. He also knew the story of his father by this point, yet he took on an apprentice anyway. Understand though that Luke was trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, but if things are the way they are looking now, there were still Jedi who were raised in the Order around when Luke was looking to rebuild. He should have sought them out. It's easy to say he didn't know there were other Jedi or light side Force users, but he was in communication with the ghosts of Yoda and Obi-Wan. Yoda absolutely knew there were other Jedi. Case in point, Yoda visits Ezra Bridger in the Jedi Temple in Lothal. He would have known of Ahsoka and Cal Kestis, just to name a couple. Okay, back to my point. Obi-Wan was raised around Jedi and lived most of his years with them. Luke was with living Jedi for 1.5 years. Obi-Wan's student failed because of his own dark side tendencies and bad choices. Yes, there was a mountain of outside forces working against him, but Anakin ultimately chose the wrong path for himself. Luke had no business training Jedi at the time he took on Ben Solo. No matter how proficient he was in using the Force, and he was powerful, he didn't have the tools necessary to shape others. He learned most of his knowledge from books and archives. Not to mention the dark side got a hold of him and he almost assassinated his student instead of teaching him the proper path. I know a lot of fans will be upset by this statement, but the facts are presented in front of us. Until we find out that Luke trained under Ahsoka for a time or something like that, which seems to not be the case right now. Let's look at it this way. It's like someone learning mountain climbing on the internet, then trying to physically teach someone how to mountain climb. It's going to end badly. And that's just mountain climbing. Luke's student failed because of Luke's own overconfidence and hurriedness to try to teach someone. Now, let's look at the scene where Luke confronts Kylo Ren. Luke shows no emotion for his nephew turning to the dark side. He shows no remorse. Sure, he showed remorse to Rey, but it took her a long time to discover the truth of what really happened. Had he been truly remorseful, he would have told her from the beginning that he was the linchpin that helped create Kylo Ren. But some will say that's bad writing in the sequels. Luke is the hero of the original trilogy, that Luke was an all-powerful and wise Jedi in the old expanded universe. All of that is true, but power doesn't make you good at teaching. Now, once again, I'm not praising the decisions made in The Last Jedi for the character of Luke Skywalker, only showing a character analysis of this film and his original appearances in A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I don't get into those kinds of debates. I only state the fact that the movie is canon and I try to make sense of it. With that said, I will continue. The way Luke acted throughout The Last Jedi and before, during the training of Ben Solo, goes along with how someone would act in his situation. Little physical training, dark side tendencies, and limited knowledge of the living Force, and zero experience with how to mentor beyond the year and a half he spent with his own masters. Luke had no right training a Padawan, and that's why he lost Ben Solo. When you look at it from a historical point of view of the Jedi Order and how apprentices were trained, it took a village to raise them under the height of the Order, and Luke took on all the responsibility himself. I'm sure this video will make a lot of people mad at me, and that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. We all love Star Wars, and that's what matters. We don't all love every decision in Star Wars, and that's okay too. Let me know in the comments what you think about the notion that Luke Skywalker was not the mature Jedi that Obi-Wan was and had no right to train anyone at the time he took on Ben Solo. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, go on and hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all of my Star Wars theories, character analysis, and fan fictions. I upload 2 to 5 times a week, and I do a live stream every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, hit the thumbs up to show your love for the hard work I put into each video. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.